Hey yo guys, how's it going? It is Ripjaw back at here again. Sorry about not uploading for the past 3 days. I have been in Scottsdale, Arizona, instead of watching my crypto portfolio bleed because of these tariffs and Liberation Day. So that's what the main topic of today's video is going to be. In front of you is a image of all of the reciprocal tariffs that got implemented. Notably, Canada and Mexico are currently exempt from the reciprocal tariffs and the baseline tariffs, and a lot of people are assuming that is because they have already entered negotiations with the White House since the original 25% tariff has entered. Other stuff. The baseline tariff, there's been a 10% baseline tariff on all imported goods to the United States effective immediately, with collections starting April 5th, and this applies to nearly all trading partners unless otherwise exempted. And some of those exemptions are delays for critical goods. One example would be pharmaceuticals and strategic alloys to be determined by the U.S. Treasury Reserve within 30 days. So pretty much I read through the entire press release, and there are certain exemptions for critical goods like pharmaceuticals and alloys that the U.S. Treasury Reserve, or Scott Bessent, will decide on whether they are going to implement tariffs or what percentage tariff they should implement onto those, depending on how quickly we can start manufacturing those in America. Because obviously, something like pharmaceuticals, which is a very complex process, is going to take longer to implement. And moving on to how the price affected Bitcoin, we will start on the hourly chart, and as you can see, this candle right here, where we had a peak of 88, was pretty much we got told that the reciprocal tariffs were going to be 10%, so the market pumped, and then we found out about these tariffs, which caused the market to absolutely tank. But it looks like we have found a local or an hourly low around 82.5-ish, and we are currently at 83,000, which is pretty good. And then check how we're looking on the daily chart. On this daily chart, we are consolidating along this Bollinger Band. And if you don't know what consolidating along a Bollinger Band is, we have an example of a consolidation to the downside, which would be this, where we squeeze, where the area in between these two blue lines gets lesser. So from example here, the area between those two lines is big, and since we've been in this distribution phase or accumulation phase right here, we have been condensing our Bollinger Bands, and we are either going to see a swing upside or a swing downside. And if we do see a swing to the downside, the thing we have to look out for is, can we stay above this level of about 73K? And if we don't, what level do we bounce off at? Because if we go beneath this, yes, market structure is over, but if we bounce around like 64, 63, we should see a lower high that should take us to about like 9, around somewhere. I'll show out the exact fib real quickly. We should see a bounce, lower high bounce, maybe to 93K. But that's only if we capitulate below last year's high of about 73K. But if we get a swing to the upside, everyone's happy. The other thing I kind of wanted to look at with you guys is the past 3 examples of when Bitcoin was below this midline on the Bollinger Band after peaking. And we have 3 examples of that, or reaching the top blue line of the Bollinger Band. We have 3 examples of this. 1 is bearish, 2 are bullish. The bearish example would be the end of the 2021 cycle, where we topped out, and then as you can see, we dipped below this orange line. We tried to retest out of it multiple times, and we just continued to capitulate until we finally broke out of it in January 2023 at around $21,000. And there's another example here of where we broke it to the downside, but we were able to break out pretty quickly and had this huge sustained rally. And probably the most similar accumulation phase that you've seen before along these Bollinger Bands is this. We hit the top blue right about here in April of 2024, and then we kind of just went sideways until we tested the bottom blue of the Bollinger Bands, and we kind of had some resistance. You can see how we kind of never really, we were just kind of trading along this range during this time. Obviously, we have some outliers, but we kind of always came back into this range of in between this orange middle Bollinger Band and the bottom one until we finally broke out. So that's something, that's kind of what I expect to see, is kind of a distribution phase with some lows, but the question is, how low do those lows go? If we see a sustained weekly candle or sustained weekly candles below the 73, it's probably not the best. And then we would look for, as I mentioned before, if we bounce off of this trend line that was formed from the previous year. And we shall go. What am I talking about? Now we're looking at ETH a little bit. Are these ETH regression bands on? No, they are not. This is the main thing I want to talk about today. Get rid of these Bollinger Bands because they kind of make it look too complicated. But as you can see, start with the monthly. If we can close this monthly candle above this orange trend line, it's probably looking pretty good for ETH. In terms of continuing the trend line, we might get rejected somewhere around this upper band of the regression trend line. And if you don't know what these regression trend lines are, just search up, I believe it's called right here, Ethereum Logarithmic Regression Bands Fine-Tuned by Jordan Bonucciani. And pretty much I'm just stealing this from, not really stealing it, but whoever made this stole the math from Into the Cryptoverse, or I'm assuming, hopefully. But the numbers seem to add up whenever I look at them on Into the Cryptoverse. But the last time Ethereum itself went into these logarithmic regression trend bands was in 2019. And we went in to the purple, and we continued to decline until the middle blue line, where we saw a bounce up to the purple. And if we go back to where we currently are now, we are currently declining on the month towards this blue. I would expect maybe once we reach a price of 1650 to get a short-term bounce to wherever the top of this line is. And obviously, as we continue to go along, since this is an exponential logarithmic regression trend line, is going to increase. So obviously, it won't be at about $2,200. It'll probably be somewhere like here along this range that we should see a bounce. And if we don't see a bounce from this blue line, I would expect a capitulation down to the bottom logarithmic regression trend line. And if we do see that, I will put a video out the moment it comes out, because that is probably the best buying opportunity you will see for ETH, because the last time it touched the bottom logarithmic regression trend line, if you bought it there, you would have gotten about close to a 3,000% return. Now, am I saying that you are going to get a 3,000% return if we get to this bottom regression trend line? No, I would say at least expect a previous high 4,000, 250% move, which is still 2.5x, but nothing absolutely crazy. But you have to be able to manage your risk and rewards weekly. And on the weekly, you can kind of see we're holding support around here. I'll get rid of this line because I know it's probably getting in your way, but we are somewhat finding support along this white line right here. I would expect us to break this to the downside, especially with the tariff news being worse than expected. And I would assume that that move would probably correspond, bro. Sorry, I'm on the laptop. I'm not used to this. I don't have a mouse. I'm not prepared. I would expect a downwards move to this blue regression trend line of around $1,600. Do I know when that's going to happen? No, it could happen tomorrow, could happen in 30 days, but based off of the Ethereum not logarithmic regression trend line, but off of Ethereum's Bitcoin pair, as you can see, once I reset this, Ethereum has been bleeding every single month since December 2022, except for these 2 months against Bitcoin. And if you don't know what that means, it pretty much means since December 2022, every single month except for 2 months, the value of Ethereum has increased at a slower rate than Bitcoin or decreased at a faster rate than Bitcoin. So even if you're up money on Ethereum, which I don't think anyone is unless you bought in like 2017, that nah, I won't go there, but pretty much Ethereum's been a bad investment compared to Bitcoin. And the way I'll show that is you just do the inverse of that. 1 divided by, it pretty much shows you Bitcoin's performance relative to Ethereum in the same time. And as you can see, pretty much since January of the 22nd, Bitcoin has been dramatically increasing against its valuation compared to Bitcoin. And it's pretty much what I've been trying to hammer for the past couple of days is that if you bought Ethereum back when it was up here, or if you bought Ethereum here and held up here thinking that we were going to exponentially increase, that was a bad decision. Well, not a bad decision, but it was a worse decision compared to if you just bought Bitcoin. And it's the same thing with these altcoin pairs. Pretty much, if Ethereum gets that swing to the downside that we talked about, of what percent move would that be? If Ethereum gets like a 13% move to the downside, I would expect altcoins to move more than 13%, maybe even 20%, which would put you into, if the candle closes at about a 20% decrease, but the wicks touch all the way down to the 0.17, I would still consider that touching the range lows, just like back here, where the wicks touch, the bottom of the wicks touch, but the actual candle itself did not. But if we see that happen and Ethereum decreases about 12% and altcoins depreciate about 25% compared to their Bitcoin pairs, I will make a video for that right away and let you guys know about pretty much the best buy and opportunity for altcoins and Ethereum since 2021 and 2019. And some other stuff we'll go over. Some stuff I thought was funny was that the HBAR Foundation is teaming up with OnlyFans founder to buy TikTok. Imagine how much more ass we're going to be seeing on TikTok if OnlyFans gets it. But I think it's a positive for HBAR, especially since the porn industry generates a lot of money. Imagine you start paying for OnlyFans content with, I don't know, HBAR instead of not. Nah, I'm just fucking with you guys. But I just thought this was funny and put it in there. And on a more serious note, the U.S. Treasury has sanctioned Tron wallets that have used Tether to support the Houthis. A total of 8 crypto wallets have been connected to the Houthis or have been financially supporting the Houthis. And if you don't know who the Houthis are, they are a designated terrorist group on the coast of Yemen who have been firing pretty much RPGs into trading ships along the Red Sea because there's a choke point there. Let me just go try to find this real quick. I'm sure none of you care about this, but me as a political science major, it's pretty cool. Not pretty cool, but I don't want to go to fucking Amazon. I go to images. I don't want to go to fucking Amazon. But pretty much, Let me open this in a new tab so we can actually zoom in on this. This is Yemen, and this is the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden. A majority of shipping goes through this little section right here, and we got terrorists shooting at that. And it's a problem if Tron wallets are using Tether to support the Houthis. Bearish for Tron, and in terms of Tether to Circle, I would say this potentially puts Circle ahead of Tether, which is very important because sorry for being so unorganized today. But Circle, which is the issuer of USDC, has filed for an IPO, and given the fact that Tether is connected to the support with Houthis, a terrorist group, could be good things for the Circle IPO. And anyways, I appreciate you guys tuning in to this video, however many that do. I'm sorry about not uploading. I've been in Scottsdale. If you guys want to see some images of the hikes and stuff I've been doing, you can go check out my Twitter. It'll be linked in the description. And I'll catch you guys later.